Welcome to TruthStream. Tonight we're here with Steve Lee and Kevin Hoyt once again. And we're going to be talking about Second Amendment, few different topics, just roll with it. And to me, we kind of have, I mean, I don't know what it was about Steve, but there was something that struck me that's kind of like this Bill Murray of Australia look, just very animated. So anyway, welcome to the show, guys. Please, Kevin, take it from here.
All right. Well, thanks for having us. And I've known Steve for a long time, and I think he's a character by every description of that word. And I'm every time I'm with him, my ribs hurt from laughing and my face from smiling so hard. And he's got that one of them, I think, personalities you can't help but to love. But Joe, let's start with you. You just had, Freedom Now, your song. It was removed from YouTube and you just put it up on Rumble and I shared it. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we've been experiencing technical difficulties as everyone else has on Rumble. And so, we're just wanted to upload something as a test. And I realized, you know what, the song's not even on Rumble. And it's a video that Scott and I concepted and Nick Alvear shot in Shasta. And yeah, it's exciting to be up. It's definitely brought down some channels on YouTube, I think about 3. And so yeah, I just figured it was time. And the focus right now, Scott and I would love to get into some artistic stuff down the road, but the focus right now is bringing people like you together and helping humanity understand what the heck's going on. So
Right.
I also heard Steve's a musician as well. Please talk about that a little bit.
Well, that was my lead in. I'll let you take over, but that's how I met Steve Lee. Is basically I was influenced by his music, and I reached out for my hunting show because of a song called "I Like Guns." And go ahead, Steve. Tell us.
I mean, about 10 years ago, when YouTube was about 7 years old, I put on a song on YouTube. I had no understanding what YouTube was about, and I could not get my song onto country music channel here in Australia. And I even tried to see whether America would play it. No one would play it. I thought it was pretty good. It's just a song called I Like Guns. So I stuck it on YouTube and I had no comprehension what YouTube was. And the first week I get 200 views. And then the following week it was 10,000. And then someone rings me one day and says, this thing of yours is at 30,000 views. And I go, does that mean anything? And then I noticed that I started selling more and more CDs. And so I jumped on a plane. It was around Christmas. I was heading to New York, jumped on a plane, landed in New York, thought I'll have another check on that video, and it had gone to 150,000 from the time I left Australia to the time I landed in America. And within 2 days, it was at 1 million views. And I'm like, does this mean something? What does that mean? Does that mean that's good? I don't know, because I didn't even know what YouTube really was. So anyway, it exploded from there, and then it just kept getting views. I kept selling CDs, and I just thought, this is just a standard, thousands of CDs sold. That's how you sell stuff these days. Great. I didn't know. I just thought, well, this is just what you do. And so I just had this song I Like Guns, and then I started getting phone calls from people like you and people like He Got 45 reached out to me, and then the NRA reached out to me, and then I'm at Knob Creek Machine Gun Shoot, and then I'm at the NRA singing my song to them guys, and it was just a great experience. And it took me another year and a half to put another video on YouTube because I didn't even want to be a YouTuber. I just had a song and I was a muso, so I just wanted to do a song, Right. And I was with my band. We were in a band called the Lees. Me and my wife and 4 kids were in a band for 15 years, traveled around Australia, went over and toured with Fred Eaglesmith, the guy in Canada, for a while, and did a bit of stuff around. We went to Nashville, played in Nashville a few times, just a family band. And we did that for 15 years. And then I did my I Like Guns video. And I did an album first called I Like Guns with 10 gun songs. So I thought it was a really good idea. And my family are like, yeah, we're not doing that. Our career is so small. We don't want to squash it overnight. We're not doing that. And I said, well, I'll do it by myself. So in the first 6 months of doing my release of my CD, I sold more CDs in the 6 months that I released it than we'd sold in the whole 15 years of the career of the Leeds. And they're like, yeah, maybe we should have jumped on board. I'm like, no, it's cool. I'll just do what I do. But and then but they still sang on it. They helped me with video clips and everything. So we did a whole heap of videos, but I never really understood YouTube. So I started doing a few YouTube videos, and people were saying to me, you should build it more and you should do this and you should do that. And part of the video clip on the YouTube videos, the last half of the verse is, I go to Cambodia, and I knew the Cambodian army because I'd taken my son there for his 18th birthday. I knew the Cambodian army. So we go over there, use all their artillery, use their machine guns, blow a car up at the end with an RPG to finish the video off. And through that, like a year and a half later, my son says to me, we've got so many fans on YouTube now all wanting to know what we did. How about we do a tour to Cambodia? Anyone who wants to come on the I Like Guns tour. So we did this tour, which we're still doing now. And I mean, I think the most we took was 24 people on one hit. And it was like $5,000 a pop for people to come with us. And we just take them over there, do a 5-day motorbike trip through Cambodia, and then hang out with the Cambodian army, blowing cars up and shooting machine guns and doing heaps of really cool stuff. We still do that now. But because of all that, even though even with Kev, like even back over here, if you can see over there, see that white tail?
Yeah.
I shot that
Yeah,
up.
I recognize him.
Yes, Kev helped me with that. That was a show I went on called The Future of Hunting. And you still doing that show, Kev?
No, that was, again, I found my dream a long time ago, but I needed a home to come back to. So that's where I left my dream career, Steve. I loved it. I miss it, actually. It feels like a past life. But that's how I got into politics, of all things. I don't know what I still question my judgment there, but it's kind of the same thing. Back then when we met, and that was 12 years ago. You're making me feel old.
Correct.
But 12 years ago when we got together, I was trying to save the planet and wildlife and the future of hunting, conservation. You know all about it. And what I heard when I heard I Like Guns, one of my friends shared your video, and I'm like, man, that's a protest song, because that's right when Australia was doing the gun crackdown, and I could hear that in your song. So I'm Kevin, and I call people. So I called you up and said, man, I love that. Can I use it? And you were like, absolutely. Go ahead and play it on your show. And at the same time, we got talking. You can tell behind him there, I'm jealous of that giant moose. Steve is a hunter. They don't have white-tailed deer in Australia, so I invited him to Ohio. But on top of that, we took a young lady, a Vermonter, actually, Lindsay. I remember that. We took Lindsay from Vermont. She shot her first whitetail along with Steve Lee. In fact, when the big one came out right off the top, it was Steve was supposed to go first, but he let this little girl shoot her deer first, and that's kind of the guy he is. So that's how we got introduced. And again, we're talking about 2A today. And, they're in a lot of trouble, a lot of pressure over in Australia. In fact, Steve, you just got your gun license back, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, because of the videos and everything that was going on with the videos, I had the federal police sort of chasing me, and then I had because I'd do stuff on the videos, and I'd always push the boundaries and sometimes go further than pushing them. But they didn't like this at all. And once you start putting stuff on video, and I'm talking like small things, like in Australia, what they were coming after me for, when they came after me, they said, you're filming yourself shooting with a gun, and your genuine reason for shooting is hunting and target shooting. That's neither of those, so you're going to lose your license. I'm like, what? They said, you can't hold a gun in a film because that's not your genuine reason, and you can only have your gun for genuine reasons. So in Australia, when you tick your genuine reason for having a firearms license, if you go outside of that genuine reason, they'll come and take your license and say, well, we're out. You can't have it anymore. And so they went through my videos with a fine-tooth comb, and there was definitely breaches and stuff in there all the way through. And thank goodness we have a thing in the world and in Australia, statute of limitations. A lot of the videos, once they sort of got onto me, was beyond 2 years. So in New South Wales firearms laws is like they can't really charge you if it's beyond 2 years. And what happened was they still went after a whole lot of these breaches, which would never have made it up in court. I went to court with a few things, and I beat them in court, and I got a section 10(1)A, which means does not proceed to conviction. So I didn't get convicted, but they still wouldn't give me back my firearms license. And I fought them. I beat them at court. I beat them in another thing called NCAT, which is the new tricky way that's going to come into America, which if it hasn't already, where they don't fight you in court anymore. They fight you at a tribunal where the same requirements of proof aren't at standing. They can just suggest something to the magistrate. If he believes them, then it becomes the reason you lose your license. So it doesn't have to be beyond reasonable doubt. It can just be, well, he thinks that probably happened, and that's the end of that. And so they take it to the tribunal. I beat him in the tribunal where they've got to give me back my A, B, C, D, and H, which is everything, including semi-autos, pistols, had to get me paintball guns back, except I couldn't have my dealer's or my theatrical armorer's license back. And then when I agreed to, oh, what can I do? So they came back and appealed and said if he's not fit for one license, he shouldn't be fit for any, and they won on that appeal. And I fought him for 9.5 years, all the way until like 4 months ago, and it cost me what it cost me $250,000 probably in finances, but I probably lost another probably $500,000 in paintball field stuff and the gun shop and all that sort of stuff. I lost money all over the place because of these guys. But I opened up other avenues, and I mean, I make money anyway. I'm a firm believer that God looks after me, and man, He just opened the store gates of heaven and just made me filthy rich anyway. So I don't really care. The firearms registry can go shank himself sideways. I still did okay. So, but from the gun side, I didn't do real well. But so the laws in Australia are so draconian, I suppose is the word most people use, but they're so restrictive. They come up with new ideas all the time to take people's licenses. So, and I can see it happening in America, and I can see how it's creeping in there. It's through regulation. And you guys have this great thing called the Second Amendment, right, which has protected you guys from day dot, right? It's written into your Constitution, and we never had a Second Amendment here. So in Australia, it's always been, and they push it very hard, that it's a privilege in Australia to have a firearms license. So the moment you get a license, it's not really your right, it's just a privilege, and that privilege can be taken away at any time. And unfortunately, we don't have the Second Amendment, and so we have no legal thing to sort of fall back onto. We just got to, we're just at the mercy of the firearms registry or the police commissioner or whoever it is at the time. And I mean, in defense of them guys, their argument is to protect the community, you know, and as delusional as they are, I still think a lot of the time, a lot of these people within the registry think they're actually doing the right thing. They're so deluded by the facts, right? I think they think, and that's why they're so passionate about it, I think they actually think they're doing something good in their own minds. They're not sort of necessarily coming after gun owners because they don't like gun owners. Sorry, they do dislike gun owners, but they just think we're all criminals in waiting because we own a firearm. And that's how we're treated in Australia in a big way. And it's an ongoing thing. Like since the laws came out in '96, it hasn't stopped. It just proceeds more and more and more. And even in '96, they brought out a whole lot of regulations. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but they brought out a whole lot of regulations. Sorry?
Well, it's why you're here, is to talk. It's wonderful.
Yes.
But I got to point out the license thing. You know, a license is issued after the government has stolen your rights, and then they sell them back to you.
Correct.
The government doesn't grant you your rights. Sometimes they think they do, but they don't. And no one can tell you whether you can defend yourself or not. But the thing that's shocking is Australia is the one place I never thought I'd see this happen, because literally everything there is poisonous and trying to kill you all the time. You need guns in Australia.
Yeah, but all of those things in Australia are protected. You will get locked up and lose your gun license if you shoot a snake. Kid you not?
Wow. Even if
there's actually a law in Queensland that you can kill cane toads any way you like, except shoot them.
So a sword, I think, is probably, if you're going after,
you can stab them, you can jump on them, you can do whatever you like. Not allowed to shoot them, mate.
Unreal.
You can't shoot. But there's this, and the nitty gritty of the law. Like for instance, one of the things they tried to get me when I went to the NCAT was they said my firearm storage wasn't up to standard, but they'd passed it 14 months. And I thought this is a great argument. I said, well, hang on, guys. Nothing had changed since you guys passed it. And the magistrate turns to me. So this is the magistrate, not the opposition. He turns to me and says, but Mr. Lee, the legislation states that a firearms dealer must know the law and comply with it. And I said, yeah. He goes, well, you should have told the inspecting sergeant that it wasn't up to scratch. He doesn't have to tell you, because you must know the law and comply with it, not him. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, well, it's not up to, if they get it wrong, that's your problem, not theirs. You've got to show them.
Well, and to put it in perspective, even farmers, if you have wounded livestock, a lot of times you have to dispatch your farm animals. Sure. Can't do that in Australia, can you?
Not with the firearm. You can if you get it if you have a pistol license, you definitely can't. You can't use your pistols to shoot them. You can only use the pistols at the range. There's no availability to use your pistols to dispatch animals, so you can't have a pistol except at a range. If you can use your rifle, but you must get it on your if you're a hunter and a target shooter, you can't dispatch a farmer's animal unless you're a primary producer, and then you've got to get it stated on your license. Otherwise, that's not part of your genuine reason.
Right. So we can beat them to get death with a club, but We're not
The
allowed
funny
to.
thing is, when I lost my gun license, I made a video to send to a politician of me beating a cow to death with a hammer. Because I said, I don't have my gun license. This is all. And the poor cow's down. I'm just bashing its head in with a hammer and sent it to him. Video sent it to him. So
Oh
give me
my
my
God.
license back, man.
You push the boundaries a little bit. It sounds familiar to Steve. Again, I can relate to that. But one of the interesting here, you were talking about how they do this, and they're almost doing it in reverse here. Like for 12 years now, that's when you first met up with me. We were fighting gun rights. Again, I'm probably the only political guy you'll ever hear listed as a firearms advocate, right?
Yep.
Spokesman for the shooting sports. This is what we've been doing for a long time. But I think what they're doing now is it's hunting that is a privilege. And the handwriting's on the wall for me. Once we lose hunting, and we're losing it again, we've been doing it. I've been fighting this for 30 years of my life. But once hunting is gone, the handwriting's on the wall. If you're not hunting, why do you need a gun? And I think that's been a long-term plan and way to, just like the military, PTSD and all these people, they want to take it away. We'll give you a gun and send you over there to shoot at people, but when you come back, we want to take your gun away because we can't trust them.
It's funny because 30 years ago, 20 years ago, we had a major issue in Australia with rabbits, and most people would use a firearm to shoot rabbits. But the government brought out a thing called calicivirus that completely wiped them off the country, face of the country. And so that generation, the last generation of kids, have never grown up shooting rabbits. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist and said that was their purpose, but I'm telling you, the fact that they wiped all the rabbits out had an effect on the culture of hunting, because no children then, for the next 20 years, had the joys of going out shooting rabbits all the time because there was no need. And all of our other animals in Australia, all the native animals are protected. There's no real animals that you're allowed to shoot anyway.
Well, and that opens up a whole nother can of whoop ass. We're talking about chemtrails, aluminum, barium, lithium, cadmium, all the shit they've been spraying us globally for a long time. Back then, and even 5-10 years ago, I'm thinking, what's happening to all our deer? What's happening to all our turkeys? We have half as many hunters as we had 10 years ago. We should have an explosion of wildlife populations, and I wasn't seeing it. And then everybody heard about the honeybees, and now we have songbirds all across the country, all over the world, that are dying of neurological damage. We don't know why, but they're dying with a white crust around their eyes. That's aluminum poisoning. That's the shit that we've been sprayed with. GMO corn, we got PFOA in our water. In fact, our soil is so toxic, our seeds won't grow anymore. So this is all connected in one great big, I don't know, evil plot against humanity. But I think America, having guns, not only does it protect you on an individual level as far as protection, but Japan said it, right? That's why we'll never see a mainland invasion, because there's a gun behind every blade of grass.
Yeah.
But how they take guns is interesting too, because they're not going to come door to door. I think what they do is they pass a law that says you have an illegal firearm and you have a year to give up that illegal firearm. And if you don't turn it in, if you ever get caught using it, say in self-defense, well, then you're the criminal because you defended yourself illegally. What a statement that is. You defended yourself illegally, and they use that against you. They'll put you in jail for it. So that's how they did it in Oz too, right? Yeah,
we don't have self-defense laws in Australia, in the sense, only in New South Wales, which is the state I live in, there is a law that states you can use this equal force against the person who's opposing you. So if they've got a gun, you can use a gun, supposedly, right? But there is one law that the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party, so we had a political party, still do, called the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers, who were gun advocates. They didn't do a lot because no one would, every time the government wouldn't give them much, because every time they got something, they'd get more votes. So the government really restrictively then came actively against firearms holders in a bigger way, knowing that they didn't have their vote anyway. So we sort of shot ourselves in the foot that none of the political parties need our vote, because we all give it to this other political party who does very little anyway. It's a complicated issue, and the restrictions here, like we even have an ammo bill in New South Wales where it's restrictive with ammo. You get caught with like a 22 bullet on the ground in your house, you lose your license for 10 years for sure, because it's classed as a firearm, just having a bullet out. What? So they got so many. If you have one in your car, you're done. And it happens to people all the time.
I've got so many rounds everywhere. I mean, every time I clean out my car, I find rounds. Every time I clean out anything, There's always some spare rounds laying around.
Of course.
But I did.
I turned on my
lose all
radiator and it goes grrrr from all the rounds.
I lost all my guns in a boating accident, Kevin. So
Yeah, me too. Actually, there's a lot of that going around. I'm hearing a lot of these things, and that's the bottom line in this is we've got 300 million guns in this country and 500 billion rounds of ammo. And I mean, historically, right? They robbed us and they raped our women and pillaged our farms and fields, and then they tried to take our guns, and it didn't work out the last time they tried to do that. And I think that's, again, the reason for firearms. And let's talk about statistics a little bit too, because there's no argument since they removed all guns from Australia that gun crimes went down. That's a fact. Gun crimes went down, but murder, rape, violent crimes in general, they went up. And
knife crimes, stabbings, way up. Canada,
right,
big time.
Right, and that's something we've seen historically over and over, anytime, anywhere in history, every time. It's not even a guess anymore. When we take away, if we ban or restrict guns on honest civilians at any level, it backfires and crime rates go up. So if you're advocating for gun control, you're advocating for higher crime rates, period. But it's not going to be guns. You're going to get knifed instead.
Well, there was a period of time in this country early on, and it was referred to as gentleman's society or polite society. Everybody had a gun. I mean, even the whores in the brothel had a Derringer or something. Maybe it was a single action 6 or something, but everybody had a gun, and everybody was very, very polite because it was a matter of survival. The people just treated each other. It's the ultimate equalizer. So. On a previous show, different topic, someone said you judge a society by how it treats its most vulnerable. Well, you put a gun in the hand of a trained small woman or something like that. Suddenly, she has the amount of force that an attacker might also bring against her. So it's an equalizer. It's this is a tool. This is
one of Steve Lee's lines from his songs, right? I'm not going to hurt anyone, and no one shoots at me because I got a gun.
Yeah,
correct.
I mean, it's really that simple. Here in Vermont State, let's pretend we're all going to be murderers and robbers and rapists tomorrow. Okay, so we got to pick our plot. Where are we going to go? Do we want to go to Massachusetts, where some knucklehead has already, banned the right for people to defend themselves? Or do you want to come here to Vermont State? And this is a message for all the criminals watching too, where 86% of homes have guns. Our men, women, and children all shoot, and we know how to use them. Where do you guys want to go? You want to go to Vermont, or do you want to go
to California? Because you can steal up to $1,000, they won't even arrest you.
Can you imagine?
If you steal more than that, then there's a no.
I'm picking the house that says gun-free zone in the front. No gun lives here. This is a gun-free zone. That's the house that I'm going to go in as a criminal. And I think that's the bottom line with this. The problem with gun laws is criminals don't follow the law. That might be hard for people to conceive. Yeah.
No, it hasn't worked down here. The gun control down here, I mean, in essence, there's definitely a lot less guns here in Australia on the streets, in essence. And your average crackhead or ice addict can't really get his hands on them because there are not as many as around. And I understand that angle, right? So if I'm going to be real about the reality is there seems to be over the last 20 years less guns around, but the crime hasn't got less because also the people with less guns are the people that the ice addicts are attacking. They also don't have firearms either. They can't defend themselves. And there's more and more crime, and so it's like you try and fix one supposed problem and create another one, and there's just no two ways about it. And but it's the restriction down here on gun owners, which you guys will be feeling. But it's the tip of the iceberg. What you guys have got now, how far it's gone down here is just out of control. And there's nothing we can do about it. I've got to comply, right? As much as I don't like to comply, I have no choice but to comply. I mean, keep in mind now, if you put video stuff up on Facebook and that, saying that you don't agree with the gun laws, which I did, and one of the things in my court case, they just bring stuff up saying this guy doesn't believe in Australian gun laws. He shouldn't have a gun license because he's completely opposing them. And the magistrate said, well, the last time I looked, it was still a free country where you have free speech. And Mr. Lee didn't say he was going to break the laws. He just said he didn't agree with them. And that's been used in a case. The fact that the magistrate said that in my favour That's been used in another case where they took a guy's gun license because he spoke against Muslims, had a gun license, they went straight around and took his guns off of him because he spoke against Muslims. And then he went to court and he won the court case because of the precedent that had been set in my court case. But they'll go after anything here. Like the firearms registry is actively involved all the time. So the guys in America, like the thing I can say to them is, this is the tip of the iceberg of this direction the left is going with. It's not just about taking the semi-autos away, because they told us that in '96 we just want your semi-autos. But man, they come after everything. But people have got great ingenuity. I'll show you this gun I bought the other day. Give me 2 seconds. You might enjoy this.
We'll give you 3.
And I'll even talk about my guns. Steve, if you can hear us still, we're using air now. I don't know if you heard all that, but we're jumping up to air power, right? There's no explosion, no ignition, no nothing. I've got a 3,000 PSI pneumatic air gun that'll shoot deer-sized game out to 100 meters. I can shoot a 300 grain slug through your pickup truck door, and it shoots arrows, by the way. If I shoot your truck with an arrow, I get a pass through, right? I can shoot rhino or elephant or whatever with my BB gun now, 50 caliber, but it's just air. But let's see your new toy. I want to see.
This one is, so you guys have AR-15s and we cannot get them here in Australia at all, right? There's just no way you'd ever get an AR-15. Some guy just made one of these the other day. Right?
Wow.
So it's a pump action 223.
I was going to say, yeah, I see the pump.
Wow,
So
it's pretty close.
It's quite. I like it. Right? I mean, there's a few problems with it because it's the first prototype. This one's like number 800 and something. But it's But look, I actually quite like it as a gun. But this is the type of thing that we struggle with here in Australia all the time, trying to get different things come in, but they'll ban this in no time at all. So you got to get in early and buy one, and then they'll grandfather it through if you've got one previous to the ban. But every time they bring in something new, something different, they'll just come in.
It looks badass, and that's the problem.
It's cool.
It looks badass.
We have appearance laws here in New South Wales where if your gun looks like a military firearm, no matter what the action is, it's a military firearm.
That's what they're doing here. They're proposing that again, and it's funny.
Yes.
I mean, let's talk about that. The AR-15, which stands for Armalite, right? Right. It's not a weapon of war. It was originally sold as the ultimate hunting partner. There's 5 million people in the U.S. that hunt deer with AR-15s, right? And again, the only thing different is we saw the Rambo guns and went, man, those look really, really cool. So they took your dad's deer rifle and they gave it a makeover, and they put things on it that made it look cool, but it's the same exact gun that your father and grandfather, right? Automatic weapons, for instance, they've already been outlawed for a long time here in the United States.
It blows my mind with all this woke stuff going on and all the lefties that you can have appearance laws for firearms, but not for people.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I never even thought of it. And again, the things here, the Democrats, some of the things they're qualifying for is if you have a removable magazine, right? A lot of our hunting rifles have or an adjustable stock. Well, again, I take youth hunters all over the world, and we use those rifles because we're dealing with different age kids, right?
Yes.
So if it has a barrel shroud, or the one that really got me thinking was a bayonet lug, because we have so many bayonet stabbings here in the United States now. Why would they ban bayonet lugs? And the reason is because that grabs all those old classic guns. They're going after them too. So I mean, they're basically they want to leave us with single action break apart shotguns. But back to that 1776 things, we had a bunch of farmers with pitchforks and shotguns, and we defeated the largest army on the planet at the time. And we don't want that. We want to avoid that. And I think we're going to get there, but that's what we're talking about. This is what this is about, really. Disarming people.
There's some
usually
good
followed
news
by genocide.
Kevin, I don't know if you've heard, but there's a bill that's been presented to nullify or do away with the NFA, which should be. It's a clear violation of the Second Amendment. Hopefully they'll get around to doing that. Now that the Republicans have the gavel, we got a better chance, I think. The NFA is a bad idea. They had the Hearing Protection Act, interestingly enough, which would allow suppressors without any tax stamp or any additional paperwork. It would be a retail item at that point, and it was just for hearing protection. You know, I really don't understand the demonization of it, other than, you know, maybe you see hitmen in the movies with a suppressor. Yeah, well, and they make it look like it's whisper quiet. Anyone that's shot with a suppressor knows that that's not the case. But
I know the bump stocks are a good example, right? I think they've been used in one crime ever in history. But anybody that knows anything about semi-autos, I mean, I can take my 22 semi-automatic and use my belt loop and hook the trigger onto it and get a bump stock. You can make that instantly. I mean, it's just the recoil of the rifle that's resetting the trigger. Those are easy to make. We played with those a long time before bump stocks, and I was playing with bump stocks before they were really public. Again, like Steve, we've had some advantages in the outdoor industry where we get to play with some of the cool toys before other people do, but nobody gets hurt. You know how much Bugs Bunny I watched? To this day, I've never dropped an anvil on a person. Like, I mean, that's kind of, and the funny part again is, you know, those statistics, every time we put a ban or restriction of any kind against people, crime rate goes up. The opposite is true. The more access that people have, law-abiding citizens, to guns, the lower the crime was. Did you guys ever hear there was a town, I think it was in Georgia, and they had a pretty high crime rate. And again, when all these liberal Democrat laws were being passed, the conservative governor of this town, or mayor of this town, passed a law that said every homeowner had to have a gun. And again, I don't think it was enforced, but they passed. It was really controversial, but they went from, like, you know, 5 or 6 murders a year to no murders in the last 5 years. And the crime, and I think Penn and Teller did a skit one time where he talked about, you know, we've all heard the adage, guns don't kill people, people do, right? If you take it a step further, it's men kill people with guns. That's just statistically how it goes. And most of their victims are females. So let's say we give every woman in America, when she turns 16, we'll give her a gun. We'll even make it pink. We'll call it a pinky. So everybody gets their pinky, every woman, every victim in America when they turn 16. And let's say only half of those women decide to keep their gun. But what did we just do to the crime rate? You think that'd be higher or lower? You know, I think, again, more guns in the hands of honest citizens, trained. I believe in safe, responsible gun ownership, and training is part of it. But training's pretty basic and easy. I've been pushing for years to get this into our school curriculum. Like, I didn't want to learn how to saw or bake, or, you know, a lot of people didn't want to dissect a frog. I don't think they do any of that stuff anymore.
No,
But
again,
those were
things that helped me in my life.
gender
And
studies.
again, you know, hunter education, the curriculum's already been established. It's accepted internationally as a world firearm safety thing. And it's a whole lot more than just hunting. It's first aid, basic survival. It's gun safety, you know, on steroids. And the teachers that it comes with, they're not only trained to teach, but they're trained to concealed carry at the same time. So there's a whole bunch of things, and it's the history of fish and wildlife and the science behind conservation. And I think the question is, why aren't we teaching this to our children? And we used to. Here in Vermont State, I got a picture from 1972. I was 2 years old, where we had a school threat. Somebody threatened to go and shoot up our school. And the picture on the front page of the banner was a senior and the principal, and they were leaning back against the chairs with a couple of deer rifles at the entrance to the school. And they didn't have a school shooting. And we used to have a rifle team in my school, right? Couldn't even suggest that today. So that's part of that cancel culture. Only this time it's our culture, and it's scary.
We had a rifle range at Bellarmine. I'm not sure if you knew. We'd sneak up there to go smoke cigarettes in high school. They didn't use it for years, but at one point or another, they had a rifle team and they had a rifle range.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, it's up in the attic basically.
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah, but you know what we're dealing with is ignorance. So it's either they're weaponizing ignorance, because people that are scared of guns typically don't know anything about guns, but the politicians making the decisions over and over, when you hear them talking about guns, they clearly don't understand guns. They were talking about, you know, this whole debate with the ATF and the shoulder or the arm brace. and they were equating that as to rendering the weapon a fully automatic weapon. And I have no idea where they got these ideas, but they continue to perpetuate them. The public listens.
Fully semi-automatic.
It is
I love
fully
that.
semi-automatic. Exactly. It's insane.
And-
But they use this this ignorance to pass all of these laws. It's maddening.
Do you know what the death rate is, Steve, in Australia? Like, how many gun deaths do you have a year before and after?
It's in the tens, under tens. It's very, very low. So
Wow.
I mean, and unfortunately, fortunately, I like the fact no one's dying from gun deaths. But that's one of the things they would use quite regularly. I mean, we had a shooting the other day. It was an extreme guy. He had a gun license up in Queensland. Police went and shot him and his mate and his wife, 3 of them.
Right.
But he was just portrayed as a very big extremist. Like the police shot 3 people. That's big news in Australia because that never happens. Like that might happen once every few years, if that. So in defense of the argument, right, their argument, I see where they get their argument from, but they say there's been no massacres since the 96 gun laws. That is a true fact, but before the 96 gun laws, a massacre entitled like 4 or 5 people. They upped it once the thing to 7 or 8. So there's been plenty of free massacres, what their free number was, but they've increased the number. So now they say there's been no massacres, but there has been a few. Even there's been a few around the place, but they won't publicise them as they only publicise it to push more gun laws, not
Right.
to say it didn't work. Yeah,
Crime still went up, and I remember
crime's out of control. Like crime for young people, like the drugs and everything. It's an epidemic when it comes to drugs and young people getting away with pretty well everything, like stealing cars, breaking houses, all that sort of thing. It's just prolific everywhere.
Right.
And
quick question for you, Steve. So, for the viewers, do you mind? Can you just shoot the gun? Just kidding. Just kidding.
I probably could. I could go outside if you want me to. Why?
no.
So I was wondering, you're in Australia, and we know a couple truthers down there. We know a group called the Collective, and they deal with quantum financial system type info. And then we know a gentleman named Guru, and then Ricardo Bossi. Do you listen to any truthers down in Australia? Do you know about other people down there? We like to help connect people. So I don't know what
I don't, because I've been sort of out of touch with social media and everything. I completely went away from social media because that is the main defense of the police when they're coming after you now is they will just go through your social media. They'll even go through what you're watching on social media. They'll know that if you've been looking at it, if you comment, if you like something, they'll say he liked this comment. And I'm
really?
And I remember when I went to when I first had the cops come after me, I kept getting these really unusual anti-establishment, real pro-gun, real extreme stuff. I kept getting people pushing me, which I'd never had before, a whole heap of them, wanting me to go like these preppers and all this sort of stuff. I kept getting more and more of them on my feeds for me to like them and stuff like that. And in the end, I went, I don't know why these are coming on here. It's nearly like someone setting me up to press them. And you get a bit paranoid. I'm not saying that's what was going on, but I became wary of that. And then since that time, I'm not big on social media at all. I've sort of gone off YouTube. I did YouTube even when I lost my gun license. I did it for about 5 or 6 years since I lost my license. The last 3 years, I haven't even put a video up simply because every time I put a video up, the next time I went to court, it would be in court with me, that video. And they would just pick ridiculous things. Like they'd just pick anything they could come up with. I'll tell you, the last time I went to NCAT, not the last time, the time before, the reason I couldn't get my gun license back, the magistrate said, listen, guys, it's been 7 years. He hasn't really done anything wrong. He's done nothing in the whole 7 years. I think you can't bring up any more of the gun issues. Although I'm not going to give him his license back simply because his driving record is so bad. If he can't abide by driving rules, how can he abide by gun laws? So they didn't give me my license for my driving laws. So what I did then, I worked really hard not to do anything wrong, right? It's a tough thing for me, but I just worked on it, right? So I went 3 years, got all my points back. So you have the point system over there in your license. I got all my 12, 13 points back. had all my points back, applied for my gun license, said, I haven't done anything wrong in 3 years now. Can you give me my gun license? They wrote back and said, no, I still can't have it. We're not going to give it to you for other reasons. So then I had to do an internal review, which is back to them anyway. So you do an internal review, and so supposedly someone who's in the same firearms registry might change their mind. So you're doing it, but this is the process, and it takes months, right? So I sent it back to the internal review. During the internal review, I get pulled over by a cop at a random breath test. And my name on the thing always comes up as person of interest. So they go on the computer, my name comes up. So he comes over to the car and he goes, you've got an obstruction over your number plate. I go, what do you mean? I have a look at my trailer plug. I took my trailer off, but the plug was still on there, and the plug was covering the letter I. And he said, it's an obstruction that's 3 points and $540 fine. And I'm like, come on, man. He goes, well, and I'm nearly crying, right? I'm broken, right? And I can hear it in the recording because I got the recording of it. I'm like, man, can you not fine me? He goes, I'm going to fine you. He said, also in the back of your UD, because I got an F-250 and I hate that. I got a black F-250. Like, I just want to be an American, whatever. Anyway, so I got these cars on the tires in the back of my F-250, and it's like this far above the tray. And he goes, you got an unsecured load as well, so I should fine you for that and give you another 3 points there, but I'm going to let you off the unsecured load. I said, hang on, man. It's not more than like, it's got to be a fair bit above that. And he's like, nah, I could fine you for either, so I'm going to get you for one. And I said, surely there's something else we can do. And he goes, what? I said, surely we can do something else. Surely, what else can we do to not get a fine? He goes, what are you insinuating? I said, I'm not freaking insinuating anything, mate. I'm saying it's up to your jurisdiction. Can you not fine me? He goes, no, I'm fining you. So then when I go to court the next time, after the internal review, they say, we're not going to give Mr. Lee a license because he tried to bribe a police officer.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Unreal.
I kid you not. And then the magistrate, closing statement stated, I would also like to point out, after the defense of Mr. Lee trying to bribe, I find it, what was the word she used? I find the proposal that Mr. Lee was trying to bribe a police officer as farcical. Who uses the word farcical? But she did.
Farcical.
And so, and then I got my license back after like 9.5 years.
Good grief.
It's funny just to hear farcical out of you. Say aluminum for us.
Oh, aluminium.
There you go.
Aluminium, what do you mean?
And how do you spell that again, right? On the periodic table? Where is that? It's up at the top,
no
he says,
idea.
by the A's.
But in Australia, I think it's at the bottom, isn't it?
I have
I'm
no
not
idea,
quite
mate.
sure.
I'm lost
I
on
know
this
we
joke.
like to-
Sorry.
I know we like to keep it, about an hour, and man, I think we're right about there. But Steve, we appreciate you coming on. And for all you American gun lovers, and even the people, again, 80% of homes here in Vermont have guns. Even if you're one of those 20% that doesn't have a gun, you're safer because I have one. And I hope people realize that. And likewise, the more access we have, we can trust each other a lot more than we can trust the government. And the gun in the hand of an honest citizen is actually, it saves lives and property. I guess we can close with the stats. Here in America, we have about 30,000, 32,000 gun deaths. That's all deaths of every kind a year. Out of those 32,000, 22,000 of them are suicide. So I don't think it's fair to count them. So that leaves us about 10,000 a year. You guys watch TV, all right? How many bad guys get shot by police? Quite a few. This is the hard number to track down. How many bad guys get shot by law-abiding citizens defending themselves? Let's cut it in half. We're talking about 5,000 gun deaths a year, which is horrible. This is all gun deaths, and all of them, right? Accidents or homicides. But considering that we got 300,000 or 300 million guns and the amount of firearms, and in that same time period where we lose 5,000 people, those same guns stop 3 million violent crimes. So if we take away, again, to save those 5,000, if we take away guns, what do you say to those 3 million potential victims, right, of rape, murder, a whole bunch of other things? So I hope people are using their head. I mean, it sounds, guns are scary. They're designed to kill things. That's what they're made to do, and they're really good at it. But in the hands of good guys, they're really good at defending you. And again, I like the unknown factor, and I love America and my rights and freedom. So Steve, I hope you guys, I wish you well in Australia, and I think everything's going to change here in the near future. I hope you get your gun rights back along with the rest of the world. So thanks for coming on.
No worries at all. Appreciate it.
One quick question, Kevin, I had, Chicago averages 45 shootings in a weekend. We know it's a big problem over there. How many of those are legally owned guns?
Right. Hardly any. 90%. It's over 90% of all guns actually come from stolen guns.
Right.
The same
So,
with background checks. People who want background checks. If I'm a murdering, raping guy, I'm not going to go to a gun store to get a gun. I'm going to get it off one of my murdering, raping friends. And that's basically how it is. Or we're going to steal it. I mean, that's how it happens. And when you advocate for gun control, like over in Australia, the bad guys that do have guns, they just created another black market. They're making money off those guns. They're running the guns because of the government restrictions. And then you go learn, you find out who's running the guns. It's probably the government. It's probably them making money on the back side of it and creating the chaos that we're all involved with now. Thanks for having us, guys. That was a great discussion.
thanks for being here.
Yeah, in case anyone is interested in, yeah, I mean, Steve's not on social media. I don't know if there's a place to direct people to watch your video, or if there's anywhere people can
There's got to
contact.
be some music videos at least.
Yeah,
Steve,
is
where
there-
can
Yeah,
people
still got some
find you?
videos on YouTube. There's still a fair bit of stuff on YouTube, so you can still just go to Steve Lee, I Like Guns. And I mean, I get views a lot, but they still pay me money. So you can keep going there, whatever you like.
Okay, well, there we go. Well, gentlemen,
Right.
it's been entertaining. It's been educational. That's the aim for our show, and hopefully we can have Steve back at some point. And Kevin, keep bringing the amazing guests. I mean, your wealth of knowledge in a variety of subjects is very appreciated. So thank you very much.
It's my cool friends, man. I got great friends. They make me look good. I'm just a pretty face. They give me all the info. So, and you guys too. Thanks for the platform of getting this out there, and everybody watching on Rumble. Click that button so we can get in the algorithms, get this stuff out there, and give us your comments. Keep it civil, even if you don't agree with us. Keep it civil, but we'll listen, and hopefully we can educate everybody.
All right.
Thanks
Thanks
again.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
That's-
So Ian, for members of our audience that like everybody these days that have loved ones and family members that are having health consequences associated with the jab, you've got something called the Vax Regret Pack. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. That actually is not a company pack that Purium promotes at all, and for many reasons. But I kind of came up with that Vax Regret because people, unfortunately, they're regretful that they got this after they got it. Some people have been Vax injured. Some people have unfortunately, dealt with some pretty damaging situations. And we have a grouping of products that can really assist one. I'm not making any guarantees. All Purium products have a 60-day money-back guarantee. But as you know, the body like an onion, and it takes time. So to get that pollution out of your system, there's about 4 products that I recommend. One is Chlorella, which is an algae that is a very, very powerful chelator of heavy metals and what shouldn't be in the body. The next product for immune modulation is our Zinc Aid, which is a whole food approach to getting your vitamin A, E, C, D, E, and zinc from a whole food approach. And then there is Biomedic, which is really going to help your gut microbiome. Wherever that stuff is, the humic and the fulvic are going to help pull it out of your system. So this is going to help your gut microbiome function. It's going to help modulate your immune system. And last but not least is our fulvic zeolite, which is it's just a 1 ounce tincture of zeolite. And if you Google zeolite, the benefits of zeolite, it will lock on to anything that's not organic and pull it out of the system. So over time, I think one who has had issues with this or is worried about potential issues, you're a candidate for the Vax Regret Pack.
Definitely. We'll have links in the description so you can find these products for sure.
Thanks so
Ian.
much. Appreciate it, Ian.
Welcome.